I just saw Hurry Up Tomorrow, the weekend movie directed by Trey Edward Schultz, and the reviews are abysmal right now. Um, it is a weird alien blob of a movie, and I don't think people were expecting it. Like, it wasn't an A24 film or something. And The Weeknd is uber famous, so he's obviously the box office draw for the movie, and Jenna Ortega. And I am a Weeknd fan, self-admittedly, and I also just like weird movies, but I liked this movie. It had a message, it had a clear thing that it was trying to portray, and it totally did it, and it wrapped it up in this cute little box. The cinematic direction, the Trey Edward Schultz editing, and everything weren't on par with like a Lynch movie or a Kubrick movie, which it was trying to mimic. But other than that, the surrealist elements of it, they weren't just surreal to be weird. They had clear meaning, and the part that I liked the most is the meaning at the end is summed up fast. It's like a quick boom. Instead of these Lynch movies where something at the end happens and then you have to think about it a ton of times and then piece together things like Mulholland Drive or something. It's clear, which sets it apart from a movie like that. The acting was awkward, but seemed genuine and unique. And I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, waiting for the Idol level acting cringe out. But that never came. And Abel's performance seemed genuine and passionate, instead of like the super try-hard in the Idol. Definitely a step forward for him there. Then there was Jenna Ortega and Barry Cogan, I think is his name, from Saltburn. And they're actors. They did their job. They were fine. They added to the weird dynamic. Now I'm gonna get into spoilers so I can explain the Jungian stuff. The last shot in the movie is the red book burning. If you couldn't be more on the nose, the red book is Jung's confrontation with the unconscious. And in Jung's model, there's the three aspects of the psyche: the ego, the anima, and the shadow. 2 unconscious, 1 conscious. And those are the 3 characters that speak in the movie. And there's a clear disconnect from reality into like the surrealist dream world. And that's when Abel loses his voice. And that's kind of unique because that was an actual event. And then after that, he goes on this journey. So he ditches Barry Cogan's character, who's the shadow, who's trying to get him to do drugs and to get over the bitches and keep treating them the same way and everything, and ignoring passion and art and all this stuff, and just to like get money and perform and be what does he call it? Be a legend. And then after that, he loses his voice. He goes with the Jenna Ortega character, and they have like this peaceful, fun, childish night. And then the characters come together, and it's just a mess, a bloody mess. So one of the dream sequences was Abel is in this fancy hotel, and he goes down to the parking garage and into a tunnel, a dark tunnel. That's obviously a descent into the unconscious, and that's a super common dream symbol. If you go downstairs or if you go down in an elevator, then you're entering deeper levels of the unconscious. That's like in Inception as well. Down there in the unconscious, he encounters this fucked up version of Jenna Ortega, the shadow anima. And she chases him, and then he comes out, which that's a really common Jungian theme, is the shadow anima. Before any of this, we actually see the Jenna Ortega shadow anima as the baptized in fear monster when he's in the tub about to die. That, I believe, is her beforehand. So she slowly enters into his psyche. And those are all the repressed feminine thoughts that he's had that have formed into a monster. And then he goes out on the other side and he finds the kid. And the kid, that's the divine child archetype, and he encounters that like at a fire, and it's obviously him as a child. And then that kid starts singing. That's one of the common themes in Jung, to reconnect with the anima is when you reconnect with your divine child. And since he's also down in the unconscious, that's another part of him that is repressed. This is the same theme as him missing all these notifications from his mom, and also Jenna Ortega missing that call from her mom or answering really quick and then shutting her away. She's profusely apologizing, and you think it's because she burned her mom's house down, when that's really just a symbolic form of repressing the child, repressing these positive aspects of childhood. And obviously, since Jenna Ortega is able, then that's his mom. Also, the city being empty is just a representation of his loneliness, because he's shut away all these aspects of his own unconscious, which makes him lonely in the actual world outside, because you're projecting these archetypes on people, and if they're negative and repressed, then that's how you view the world, eventually ending up in complete isolation. When he wakes up and Jenna Ortega is this crazy fangirl holding him captive like in Misery, that's him now at a higher level, because he's on a above ground again, having an encounter with the anima, and she starts describing his music back to him. And it's a little weird because you're like, what the fuck? He wrote the music, obviously knows. But I think what was trying to be portrayed was like when you do dream journaling in something and you consciously write down what you're saying, it's not until you read it back when you realize what it truly meant or what your subconscious was trying to portray to you. That's what happens in this weird scene where she's doing like you like Huey Lewis in the News? Which I'm thinking that was a reference and that was intentional, but I don't know. Then Barry Cogan's character shows back up, and then the anima and the shadow get in this confrontation, because it's a constant cycle of two parts of the psyche fighting each other. And that constant cycle is symbolized after he dies. There's a watch and some blood spills over it, and that's the end of the cycle of time. And then the anima just lies down and waits and pours out the gasoline, and he should be nihilist, right? But he instead just starts singing. That's his only escape from this cycle of nihilism. And then the anima is like, yep, okay, you did it. And he goes, when I die. And then that's him regaining his control. And then the end of the movie, he goes and he's backstage again, and he looks in a mirror, and the mirror is the reflection of himself. And that's the whole final part of the movie. And then there's that sick bass line. Even though this wasn't a cinematic masterpiece, and it didn't do the Jungian stuff as good as like Fight Club, it would be a shame if this was forgotten, because it really is a part of the last three albums, and it has themes and direction that are cohesive, and it's a good piece of art. And Jung talked about the quaternity all the time, overtaking the trilogy, and that's kind of what I think this is. Anyway, those are my final thoughts on Hurry Up Tomorrow. Thank you for listening.